The Shayanadi Avastas are very special. I can't go into it on this level. They tend to relate to how an individual approaches the planet, the behavior of the individual in association with the particular planet, or even in association with the particular nakshatra that's connected to it. So they're very interesting, and they give a whole other layer to interpretation. And as the nakshatras tend to be very subtle, so too do the Shayanadi Avastas, which is why they work in such great harmony and in such great tandem with using the nakshatras. You can equally look at them for the planets, but I like using them for both the planets and the nakshatras. Okay, I tell you what, we're going to go ahead and get started talking about the Shayanadi Avastas. Okay, they're mentioned in chapter 45 of Brihat Parashara Hora Shastra. The Shayanadi Avastas, as I was saying, they tend to indicate the manner in which an individual is approaching a particular planet. And the Shayanadi Avastas are going to change with each dasha period that an individual is in. So for instance, the sun may be in one Shayanadi Avasta during your Venus dasha, and then when you go into your Rahu dasha, it will potentially change into a different Shayanadi Avasta. So it changes and it adjusts as per the dasha period that an individual is in. And it's, as I was saying, they're more deeply related to the behavior of the planet, which makes sense because when you enter a different dasha period, you're going to begin to behave in a different manner in association with a particular type of planet, right? So what I'm going to do next, and for those of you who have missed the general explanation of the Shayanadi Avastas, please go back and rewatch this video. I'll just say it one more time. They're associated with the Chesta, not Chesta Bala, which is part of Shadbala, but Chesta, which means behavior of the planet. It's how that planet behaves as it's fulfilling its role during a particular dasha period. And as we can understand that it will affect how a planet is approaching things, we can also understand that nakshatras being connected with particular planets during particular dasha periods are going to equally be influenced by the behavior of their dispositor during the particular dasha period that we're in. Okay, so I tell you what, I'm going to go into bringing up a chart, which means I won't see anybody else's chitter chatter here for a moment while I'm bringing up the chart and pointing things out there. Okay, so I'm going to go over each of these. As you can see, there are 12 Shayanadi Avastas, and equally there are 12 houses. So one of the things that we can do is, in understanding the houses, not the house effects, I'll explain what I mean here in a second, we can have a general understanding of each particular Shayanadi Avasta. So what do I mean by not the house effects? Okay, so you wouldn't say that during basically a planet being in Bojana Shayanadi Avasta that the individual would, be going to court or have legal issues, right? Instead, you want to have a general understanding of ninth house energy, and that more aptly begins to define each of the particular Shayanadi Avastas. Now, what I'm not going to go into today in this video is the calculation of these, because that is something that is a little more intricate and beyond the scope of this video. What I will say in connection with that is, dependent upon which version of Brihat Parashara Hora Shastra you have, there can be a discrepancy in terms of how they are calculated. right? One of the best ways, if you want to get them calculated correctly, in my particular opinion, is to buy Kala Vedic astrology software. It calculates them in the correct manner. But to give you an idea of what goes into the calculation, or some of the things without going into the actual calculations themselves, they work with, amongst other things, the planet, the number that the planet is. In addition to that, the moon's nakshatra, right? All of these are taken into account in terms of determining which Shayanaadi Avasthas are active during a particular time. And so since the moon's nakshatra is taken into account in this particular calculation, we can understand how the Shayanaadi Avasthas have a particular connection to the nakshatras, which is why I'm teaching those on my upcoming nakshatra course. Just briefly, I will say, if you're interested in participating in that course between now and I think it's either December 4th or December 11th, it's on the page, and you should see a link below in this video if you're watching this later. Between now and early December, I am offering a 15% discount on course registration. If you register either in full or by trimester, you'll get a 15% discount for registering early. Okay, so you can find out more information about that course within this video or down on the video page if you're watching this later. Okay, but as I was saying, the Shayanaadi Avasthas have a very special connection to the nakshatras, because one of the things taken into consideration in their calculation is the moon's nakshatra. Now, if you'll notice, you'll see all 12 of these avastas, which I'm going to go through one at a time, and I'll give you probably one or two examples of each of these, but you'll also see something that says Vichesta, Drishti, and Chesta. And loose translation of that, Vichesta is little strength, Drishti is medium strength, and Chesta is full strength. Now here's something that's interesting. To determine the strength that each of these Shayanaadi Avastas is going to function with, we need to know the first letter of the individual's name and apply that letter to the Sanskrit alphabet in order to calculate the Vichesta, Drishti, Chesta values. Okay, so it's a very intricate thing and very personally determined, because it will change with each individual's name. These Shayanaadi Avastas can change, right? So let's run down this list. So the first Avasta is Shayana, which means lying, as in lying down, not as in telling a fib. So think of it as, what is the first thing that you do in the morning? Well, you don't just lie in bed. The idea is that you begin to wake up. You're lying down, but you're awake. You're beginning your first awareness of the world, as in the number one. It's a beginning, as in the beginning of each day. So since you're just beginning something, you're not really fully awake. It takes you some time to wake up. It takes some time for things to get going. So an individual could be approaching their career, if we're looking at the career planet, in a Shayana manner. So they're just beginning to get things going. They're just beginning to become aware of things in regards to their career, per se. The second Shayanaadi Avasta is Upavesha. Upavesha means sitting. Okay, so what happens after you wake up? Eventually you end up sitting up in bed. At that time, you're a little more receptive than you are when you first begin to wake up. You're open to thinking about how you should approach your day. You're open to ideas that come to you. You can begin to flow a little bit more because you're receptive to receiving concepts about the way things are going. So let's say that an individual, a man perhaps, has his Venus and Upavesha, Shayanaadi Avasta. So basically, in regards to relationships, the individual becomes more receptive in association with relationships. They may begin to have a clearer idea of how they need to approach relationships. Okay. Then the third Shayanadi Avasta is Netrapani, which means guiding the hand. And so when we begin to have ideas or thoughts about how to approach our day or to go about things, then we begin to interact. We begin to get our hands involved in the experience. We begin to apply our skills. We begin to apply our intelligence, right? So using that work example, if the work planet is in a Netrapani Avasta, then the individual is going to be getting more interactive with their particular work environment. Okay, so guiding the hand, getting involved in things. But when we guide the hand and get involved in things, we're still learning, aren't we? We're still prone to making mistakes. And that's what leads us to Prakashana Avasta, which means illuminating. Right? So basically, when we get involved with things, we begin to sometimes encounter resistance. Then we begin to have an understanding of what's going wrong, right? When things don't work out, we begin to go, oh, well, this is what's going wrong. I feel that I need to do this. So you can see it's kind of connected to the fourth house. It's an illuminating, a feeling, oh, well, I did this and I did that and that didn't work out. Now I feel this and now I'm looking at things in a different way. What do I need to do next? I'm beginning to have some ideas, right? Illuminating, right? Then you have the fifth Shayanadi Avasta, which is Gamana, which means departing. So when you have that idea, what do? You begin to apply that idea. You begin to move towards creating your solution, which is a fifth house related concept. It's about creative intelligence. The fifth is the third from the third. The third is our intelligence. The fifth is the efforts or the fruits of our intelligence, so to speak, which is a solution. Right? So look at the concept of departing. I'm going somewhere. I'm applying myself towards this. That's the concept with the Gamana Avasta. Then we have Agamana, which is arriving. So you've departed, you're going to apply your solution, and then you get involved at that solution, or you arrive. So you're going somewhere. You're going, I want to go to this particular place because going to this particular place would be good. Well, we do that over and over again with, going back to the Gamana. We do that over and over again over the course of our day. I'm going to go do this because this hasn't been working out well. Or I'm going to go do this because I had an illumination that this might be a good idea, as per the fourth. So then when you go to do that, then you arrive on the scene with that particular thing. When you arrive on the scene, things are either like you thought they were or completely different. And it may take some adjusting in that particular capacity, which is the arriving concept. When you arrive somewhere, you're just there. You're not fully ready, so to speak. Then we have Shabayavasti Avasta, which is congregating, right? That is, you arrive somewhere to apply your solution. Then you interact with that thing. You become one with that thing, right? You join together with something. So if you see particular relationship planets in a Shabayavasti Avasta, that individual, dependent on the strength of that planet and the strength of the Avasta, may be ready for a relationship to come together. It gives more fruition to that, right? So that's the Shabayavasti Avasta. Then we have Agama, which means approaching. Okay, and it's similar to eighth house energy. So we congregate with something. We get involved with that thing or that person, applying the information that we have and the things that we have learned, overcoming the initial difficulty of just getting involved in a relationship, which would be the Agamana concept. And then we've overcome that and we're actually getting involved in the relationship. Some other things come up that we then have to deal with. We have to approach those particular things, right? We're approaching something different. We're creating a change. So let's say we've got a career planet that is in an Agama Avasta. Well, that individual may be approaching a different job, or they may be going through a transformation in terms of how they approach the job that they're already involved in. Then we have the Bhojana Avasta, which means eating. Okay, so eating. So now that you have approached that new job, now that you have approached your different way of approaching your job, you're able to digest the changes or the shifts that are going on. You're able to take things in more deeply, which is what eating is all about, right? Just as a side note, occasionally you will see these Shayanadi Avastas play themselves out in very concrete ways. An individual can get a food-related job and a Bhojana-related Avasta. Not always, but you do see that sometimes, okay? Then, once we've taken things in and fully begun to understand something and taken it in deeply, then we begin to stand a chance of success with that, which is kind of connected to the Nritya Avasta, desiring to dance. We've taken something in. We're dancing with that thing. We're beginning to become more passionately and fully involved in our actions in association with that, which is what can eventually lead to potential success. But are we dancing a little bit, with medium strength, or with full strength? We'll look at that here in a moment. So then the individual is beginning to dance. They become ever more eager, which is Kautuka Avasta, eagerness. So that's approaching whatever it is the planet is associated with an intensive eagerness, not just with a desire to dance. You're already dancing and the passion is building up in you in regards to that particular thing. And then when finally you reach completion with something, what do you do at the end of the day? You go to sleep. You put an end to that thing. You slumber. You're not aware of something. So a planet, let's say a career planet in a Nidra Avasta, the individual may not be aware of something in connection with their career. They may be asleep to something, right? Or they, sure, in rare cases, they may actually be prone to sleeping on the job. Sometimes that can happen. So in determining these other three avastas here, like Vichesta, Drishti, and Chesta, so as I was saying before, those have to be determined with the with the letter of the first name of the individual, and it should be the individual's birth name. We then attribute that to a Sanskrit letter in order to determine that. If you have Kala, it will just calculate all of these things for you, so you don't have to go through the calculations themselves. But again, the Vichesta means doing whatever that Shayanadi Avasta is with a little bit of strength. The Drishti means doing whatever that Shayanadi Avasta is with medium strength, and the Chesta Avasta means doing whatever that Shayanadi Avasta is associated with full strength. So little effects, medium effects, or full effects. Okay, we're going to go into some examples. I'm not going to bring it up on my screen. Right now, I actually have some charts saved as PDF files, so I have to kind of exit out of here first so that I can get there. Okay, and then I'm going to open up some files for us. And what we'll do is we'll just look at one particular set of Shayanadi Avastas that are connected to the Rashi chart. Maybe if we have time, we'll go look at another one. But let me see if I can find the one I was looking for. Okay, and let me make this full screen for us. And then let me switch us over to the screen. Okay, so here pardon me, you will see the Shayanaadi Avasthas screen. I do a lot of work with house cusps, which is why you see all these blue numbers. House cusps tend to give more precision. And because I also do a lot of work with nakshatras, with house cusps, you can have nakshatras connected to the houses, and that adds a whole other layer to the interpretation. I didn't, in calculating this, I didn't calculate the Vichesta or the Chesta. We'll just kind of make that up ourselves as we go along, because I don't have time to go back in and calculate it now. So why don't we just go in and look at this, and we'll explain the difference between each of those things. So basically, let's say that this individual is in their Jupiter dasha. Now, Jupiter and Mercury have this special capacity to manifest things in association with whatever they're conjuncting or Rashi aspecting, right? So Jupiter here is conjuncting the 10th. So that tells us that during this individual's Jupiter dasha, there can be career success for this particular individual. Okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to look at Jupiter Mahadasha and understand how that would tend to work. So during their Jupiter dasha, how are they going to obtain that success overall on their life path? Well, by Netrapani, as you can see, connected with Jupiter here. Netrapani, guiding the hand. So the individual will become more interactive with that particular, with, creating success in their life, right? If the planet is Vichesta, they'll only, be applying their skills just a little bit, and that can affect the level of success that the individual has, right? If they're doing it moderately, well, they may be able to have a moderate amount of success. Other factors, taken into account with this, of course. And if they happen to be in a Chesta Natrapani, in guiding their hand, getting more involved, rolling up their sleeves in association with work, they're going to be able to create more. Now, luckily, I think I still have this chart up, because I'm noticing that we don't have the nakshatras present here. So I want to kind of bring those into the equation too. Jupiter in this particular instance is in Uttara Palguni Nakshatra. So then we would, the sun as the lord of Uttara Palguni Nakshatra, being in Bojana, Shayanaadi Avasthas. So what does that mean? Well, during Uttara Palguni, with Jupiter and Uttara Palguni, the individual is going to try to work more in harmony with themselves and work more in harmony with other people. They're really going to be taking in, gee, in order to guide my hand, in order to create a greater level of success in my career, I really need to take in and understand, which is a 9th house concept, understand how to work better with myself, and equally how to work better with my coworkers. Now, dependent upon the strength of the sun in that particular capacity, and dependent upon, in addition to that, the Vichesta, the Drishti, or the Chesta version of the Shayanadi Avasta, the individual is going to be doing that just a little bit, applying themselves as fully as they could, be doing it more moderately and have a greater level of success, or do it full on with full strength. And then you're only dealing with the limitations of the sun in creating that, right? So let's take a look as well, as we have a little more time. Let's go into this person's Dashamsha chart and look at things there, so we can illustrate things tend to get changed as per the particular dasha. Okay, so here we have the Dashamsha chart. You'll notice Jupiter here is also Rashi aspecting the 10th. That 10th, though, has Rahu and the sun in it. This individual may be having some difficulty during their Jupiter dasha identifying the direction that they want to go in, because Rahu and sun can have this tendency to create an identity crisis for the individual. Ketu and moon may mean that on a certain level they begin to put all of their feelings aside, but on one level they may be somewhat insecure in terms of how they're approaching their work environment. So in terms of looking at Jupiter here in the Dashamsha chart, we see that Jupiter is in an Agama. So it's approaching the situation. It recognizes that there have to be some changes in association with, creating more success in their life. They have to deal with the problem that's at hand and overcome that. How are they going to apply themselves towards creating those changes? Well, that can be determined by the drishti or the chesta version of that avasta. Remember, and I tend to keep the nakshatra position from the Rashi chart and carry that over to the divisional chart. I find that to provide more accuracy for the work that I do with nakshatras. Other people may find different things for themselves dependent upon how they're approaching a horoscope, and that works for them. But this is the way that it works best for me in this particular regard. So Jupiter would still here be in Uttara Palguni Nakshatra. And we'll notice that the sun is also Agama. So they need to create some changes in terms of how they're working with other people and in terms of how they're working with themselves, right? So as you can see, this adds a whole other layer to the interpretation. And again, if you have the letter of the person's first name, right, and you want the first name and it needs to be the name from birth, then you will able to bring up the chesta, vichesta, and drishti associations. I'm not sure if this is included in other software, the Shayanaadi Avasthas. I'm not sure if it's calculated the same way that it's calculated in Kala. In those other softwares, I have found this calculation to work better, and it's different than the calculations that I have seen in some versions of Brihat Parashara Horus Shastra. And there's a discrepancy in terms of how one particular word is translated, but there was a literal translation directly from the Sanskrit that was used in creating this particular calculation that's used in Kala, and also using it in understanding of what that term means in Jaimini astrology and how Jaimini applied it, and using the same particular concepts in that regard. And I have found it to be very accurate, especially in regards to understanding how planets in nakshatras will tend to work.